Hey folks, rinimt here, and welcome to Crime Opera, the Caterpillar Candids. Thank you, eastasiasoft, for the code. Let's begin. Thanks for downloading the Crime Opera companion piece. Caterpillar Candids features short stories from the Crime Opera universe that takes place shortly before, during, or shortly after the events of the Butterfly Effect, which I have not played, unfortunately. It's highly recommended that you finish that game to completion before starting on this one. Well, additionally, we have added the Beyond Butterfly Director's Commentary story as a bonus. To save your state, please open the main menu options. To those wanting a quicker save route, there's a quick save feature appearing at the bottom right of your screen during your read. Please choose which story you would like to read. Alright, Day in Strife. So we have 5 different ones here. I guess depending on how long each one is, we'll split them that way. But let's go. A Day in the Strife, the untold story of Terry Childers. Monday. Come on. Where the hell's a payphone when you need one? Look up and down the street. No luck. Well, I wouldn't say no luck so much as that's just my luck. Down and out as always. Can't seem to catch a break. Don't ask for much, do I? God, Ma's gonna be scared of her wits if I don't talk to her soon. No choice. Gotta cross. I dart across the way as soon as an opening comes up between the moving cars. As I could have guessed, I almost got hit along the way. Don't they even see me? Am I that goddamn invisible? Christ, I walk around all day feeling like there's somehow a target on my back when I actually need some acknowledgement in my existence. You think I can get any? Nope. No way in hell. Finally. I spot the payphone booth and run over to it as quickly as I can. Takes me a second to thumb around for a coin in my pocket. Almost started to lose my shit when I couldn't feel one after a few seconds. Guess that's as close to a break as a guy like me is likely to catch. I pop it in and start dialing. Come on, Ma, pick up. Hello? Ma, it's me. Terrence. Oh, Terrence. It's simply wonderful it's simply awful what they're doing. Wow. It's simply awful what they're doing. Slow down, Ma. What's going on now? They're taking everything. They said they can't hold on any longer and that they don't have any choice. Terrence, they're taking all of my things. Ma, you need to stall them just a little longer. These guys put in a full 8-hour day. Just tell them I've got the money and this is all about to get sorted out. Oh, that's wonderful. You've got the money, just like you said you would. Well, no, not quite yet. Al wasn't around, but I'm gonna find them, Ma. You just need to keep them there a little longer. Can you do that? I'll try. Oh dear, what are we going to do? Good question, especially because I lied. Al was exactly where I figured he'd be. A lot of good that did, though. Come on, Al, this is my mother we're talking about here. I don't give a rat's ass, Mr. Childers. You did a couple small jobs for me and your work was subpar at best, as far as I'm concerned. That's that. I'll do anything. Or about the tossed on the street. She's old and not in the best of health, and she has cats. Stop calling me that. I'm not your buddy, Mr. Childers, nor am I your equal. I don't do favors even for friends. I run a business here, and I'm not in need of your services any longer, so please, have some dignity and just let it go. Oh, jeez. Look, just hang tight, okay? I'll be there as soon as I can. I hang up before she has a chance to pipe up. God knows she had a lot more to say about it. I just don't have any more answers. I'm at my wit's end. All these years pulling jobs for that son of a bitch, and where's it got me? Nowhere. Christ, I mean, I know so much about him and his stupid operations. I could... No, cool it down, Terry. Don't even think like that. That's how most guys in this business their business wind up dead. Al may be a smug prick, but he isn't someone you want to turn your back on either. He's a pretty powerful guy. Not like a Bianchi powerful or anything, but Bianchi. Been a long time since I've had a run-in with his boys. I mean, thank God, those people are trouble. Hans Bianchi himself, he's actually kind of an alright guy. Not that you'd want to cross him either, but my few interactions with the guy were okay. Doubt he remembered me, actually, if I hadn't known who he was at the time. Kinda doubt I'd even remember him. Hans has a pretty storied history with the Mafia, after all. Kind of a shame what happened between him and the gallows, really. Heard he and Anthony used to be pretty inseparable back in the day. Nah, Hans isn't the one to be afraid of. Not nowadays, anyhow. People who run things for him, on the other hand, they're dangerous as all hell. And The reason for that, of course, is Bianchi's aging out. Doesn't have the same handle on things as he used to. Mine's kinda going. At least that's what Owl's guys have been saying. According to them, Hans used to run a pretty tight little ship. Only the most dangerous and most experienced men would be brought into the fold when he was in his prime. That's how he managed to keep the upper hand over the Gallo family for so long. But now, with him taking a step back from everything, all those psychos who work for him have free reign to do whatever they want. Does he know what's going on? I'm sure he's got some idea. Not sure if he doesn't care, if he just feels like it's all getting away from him, out of his control. A little sad, actually. I heard his kids hate him, though. Tough way to end the legacy. If I had something I could offer him, now that would be something. That'd save Ma's house for sure. But I don't have anything right now. Nothing but a bunch of information and all these crooks that get me killed if I ever spilled it to anyone worthwhile. And be honest with yourself, sir. You're too much of a pansy to try it, even if the opportunity did present itself, right? It's hard not to feel like the biggest loser around. I want so badly, just for once, to stop feeling sorry for myself. But here I am again, another conundrum. Al's out, Bianchi's out. Who all else is left for me to turn to? Certainly not the Gallo sign. The people they employ are a lot more under control than Bianchi's men are. That Zonder guy scares the living heck out of most people, so the brothers have a pretty decent grasp over those under their employ. And Gerald's a pretty respectable guy, so people like dealing with him. Kind of a good combo, that whole good gangster, bad gangster thing they have going. Of course, you don't just waltz up to either one of them and introduce yourself and go on asking a favor. They don't know me. Even if I did have something to offer them, it's not like they trust me. Nah, the only one in that family I do know is their ma, Loretta. Scared lady in her own way, but the couple dealings I've had with her went well enough. She may even kind of remember me. Maybe. Christ, am I that desperate that I'm actually considering asking the Gallo matriarch for her favor? Has it actually come to that? Yeah, I guess it has. All the Gallos seemed keen on hiring me for any more jobs in the future anyway, right? Maybe my services would be welcomed elsewhere. Besides, even if I can save Ma's house today, there's no telling what'll happen next week or the week after that. What if the Gallos actually need a guy like me around? A guy like me. There I go again, kidding myself. I stink of desperation. No one needs my services. Well, nothing. I drive trucks every once in a while, take merch from point A to point B. Anyone can do the jobs I've been doing for Al over the years. That's why it was so easy for him to be rid of me. I'm as replaceable as they come. Still, I don't have any other choice. I've got to take the chance now, because I know if I let this all pass, not only will Ma and I lose everything, I'll probably never even consider doing something as bold as this ever again. You can never really know until you try at something. That's why I have to do this. I get out of the cab and keep my eyes away from the drivers. I can't bear to face him after skipping out on the tip. I'm already regretting this decision. Loretta probably isn't even here. She lives alone in her apartment downtown, so if the rumors are to be believed. The few times I did joint work for her and Al, the meetings were here at her son Xander's house. They have an office room upstairs that they use for their rap plannings and whatnot. Who the hell are you? Holy crap, that guy scared me. Hold it together, man. Hi, Wait, no, you and I pulled a job together a while back. You here to see Xander? Huh, he does look a little familiar, actually. Now that his glasses are off, yeah, I guess we did. Loretta, if she's here. He turns and waves towards the house, and I follow him up the walkway. Please, God, tell me this is a sign that my luck's about to change for the better. Who's this? We seem to have stumbled into a bit of a heated meeting between Loretta and her son. The guy who took me up here gives a brief introduction, letting them know how he remembers me and who I represent. I wish he hadn't done that. He closes the door after leaving, and suddenly I feel like I'm surrounded by a pack of wolves. Terry Childers? What do you want? Busy. No, we're absolutely done here. Do as I say, Xander. Ma! She doesn't say anything, just stares at him intently until he grunts in frustration and takes his leave. He gives me a really nasty look on his way out. I take it you weren't here to see him. Good guess. No, ma'am. I came to see you. I know you probably don't remember me, but I've been doing work for Albert Morris on and off through the years. And, well, I've been a little guy. I'm in a bit of a rough spot right now, and he doesn't have any work for me. And I was kind of hoping, if there's anything you needed, anything at all. I do remember you, Terry. And yeah, we've got plenty of work. No, I'm not gonna give it to you. Do you know why? My heart lurches up into my throat at those words. What do I do now? Will my voice even work if I try to use it? What can I even say? Why? It's the look. The whole thing is just off. That desperate look on your face, this lump of your neck, those clothes. I'm not shocked that Albert would hire someone so weaselly looking, but I'm not him. I don't trust you. You're an ugly human being, Terry. I'm sure you've been told that before, so I'm not telling you something you don't already know. My face is suddenly getting really hot. My vision is going wonky. This woman, she seemed so nice the first time I met her. Now, look into my eyes. I want you to look into them and ask yourself, does this look like a woman who does favors for people she doesn't trust? Is that how she got to where she is? And then I want you to ask yourself, what do you think she would like to do with people who think it pertinent to waste her valuable time? I'm sorry. Yeah, and I'll get out of your way now. I'm sorry. Very sorry. Do that again, Terry. Give my best to Albert, if and when he decides you're worth the risk of hiring again. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. Every step I took felt like it could have been my last. But I feel like I ran down the hallway once I gotten out. But just as I feel like I'm home free, I run into the other son. Ah, friend, just on your way out? Yes, just speaking with your mother a bit, that's all. Shut up, shut it, Terry. Why the hell would you say all that? Stupid nervous wreck, you're getting yourself killed. I can tell by the look on your face she's in one of her foul moods again. I appreciate the warning, whether intentional or not. I'm Joe, the oldest son of the family, and you are? Terry Childers. I work for Hans Bianchi. Why would you lie to him? Idiot, he's gonna find out if he doesn't already know. Maybe he's testing you. You don't know how deep his intel goes. Damn it, after running with his ma, though. No wonder my brain isn't working right. Bloody thing probably thought this would throw him off my trail, but that isn't right at all. Loretta knows who I work for. If the matter were ever to come up between them, then they'd really be suspicious about me while I'm lying to them. She's gotta hold it together. Think, Terry. Why would the matter come up? Sure, she just threatened you, but you're small potatoes. You think you're actually worth her second thought? No way in hell. You're fine. You're safe. And the less truth this guy knows about you, the better, right? No taking it back now, anyway. Huh. Just what business does he have with us now? I can assure you it doesn't matter now. Huh. Sounds about right. Be sure to give him my regards, nonetheless. Take care, Mr. Childers. Yeah. Take care. Phew, now get out of here. Tuesday. What a night. Horrible. Mom was absolutely crushed when I showed up and didn't have the money. Spent the night at a crummy motel with her, listening to her cry for hours on end. Nothing I could do. And I spent the morning and afternoon sorting through what we did manage to bring with us to see if I can hawk a few items for money. And as my fortune continues, I got a whole lot of nothing for it. Most of the stuff was deemed pretty worthless, no more than a few bucks here and a few bucks there. Unlike this dingy old camera, which the pawn shop owner flat out refused to take because it looks so shitty. I mean, it still works, there's even a full roll of film in it. Should have been worth at least a few measly dollars if you ask me. Thought creeps up on me that if I head back now, I'm gonna have to listen to Ma carry on from where she left off. Not so appealing, so I decided to take the long way home. I don't know if I've suddenly developed a death wish or whatever, but for some reason I get the idea in my head to go by one of the old job haunts. So it's the spot where Albert and Loretta had a joint operation going. Apparently not even their sons knew about it yet. Broad still has her secrets from them, it seemed. Why would I go there now? Who knows? Maybe I'm feeling sentimental, thinking back to better times. That was a good job we pulled there. I thought I was keen just being allowed to be a part of it. Turns out, not so much. I get there and almost immediately spot shadowy figures moving about near the warehouse. Huh, because the job was being pulled tonight after all. That means I really have been left out. I should feel gutted by it, but it's hard to feel anything anymore. Last 2 days have just been too full of disappointment for anything else to have much of an effect on me. I stand corrected? Gerald Gallo. Guess he knows about the operation now. I make myself hidden, given how suspicious it'd look if he saw me again right now. This power box seems like a good enough cover. I can even hear what's being said if I listen closely. Make it quick. If anyone finds out we're here, we could be a dead man walking. Not a word to anyone. That's interesting. I don't know exactly what it means, but its importance is obvious. Who's pissing off Gerald? Gerald? Surely not Mother Dearest. Bianchi? Maybe we can move the screw out over? What could it be? I move my head a little closer to the power box to try and hear more and almost drop the camera! I have a camera! I have a camera, and Gerald Gallo is doing something he shouldn't be doing. I could use this. I could maybe get a pretty penny for this info if I can figure out the right buyer. Calm down, man. Make sure you turn the flash off first and foremost. I have to get at least one of these pictures turns out in this light. Move around, take shots from different angles. All I need is one clear shot of Gerald, at least one somewhat decent show of the surroundings. Can use up a whole roll of film, there's gotta be at least one that turns out well enough. I think about maybe getting close enough to take a shot of the merch being moved into the truck, but it's just too much of a risk. Hopefully this will be good enough. It's all over within about 10 minutes or less. I leave and I'm free to move around without worry. This was it. This was the big break I needed. If only it had happened 2 days ago, before we lost the house. Doesn't matter now, I've still got the future to figure out, and this could be the key to solving any further problems for me and Ma. Wednesday. I got the film developed this morning. Most of them turned out like shit, but there were a couple really good ones that really got me excited. I've been thinking about it and thinking about it. Every time I thought to myself that maybe I should go see Al about what I saw, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I mean, screw that guy. He left me out to hang. If he's getting screwed over here, good. Gerald treated me better yesterday than Al ever did. It just doesn't make any sense I go crawling back to him. That's stupid enough to go and try and blackmailing the gallows. Screw that. That'd be suicide. So either I sit on them and do absolutely nothing, or I try my hand with Bianchi. I know that's risky in its own way, but I can't just sit back and let opportunity slip away. That's how I ended up here in the first place, not taking enough risks. After reaching out to a few guys I worked with in the past, I was finally able to get an appointment to see him. I made sure Bianchi was aware of its urgency. Even got an invite to his mansion. I was actually really surprised by that. Mr. Childers, was it? Welcome to my home. I'd say to make yourself comfy and whatnot, but I was told you've got some manner of urgency regarding the gallows. Yeah, really, Mr. Bianchi, you can't know how much I appreciate you meeting with me. Think nothing of it. Let's go upstairs. I don't want no peepers listening in. Know what I'm saying? Of course. He leads me up to the mansion's attic. It's much smaller than I figured it'd be, but it's a nice little safe spot, I guess. He then turns to me expectantly. So what you got for me? I hand over the pictures. I took these last night. I don't know much of what I was seeing, but I overheard Gerald saying that they shouldn't have been there doing what they were doing. I know it's a shot in the dark here, but I was wondering if maybe the location was a place of significance to you? Kid, you had no idea. He scowls and looks through the pictures, and slowly a smile creases the sides of his mouth. I have to admit, you done good. You done real good. I'm gonna tell you a bit of a story. Not too many people know of it. I think you's earned it. Your Gallo brother and me, we go way back. That one's too long to tell, but the thing of it is, we still have a bit of a side venture between us. And that's what you stumbled on. It's a pretty big secret, capiche? Very lucrative. Not even your son's supposed to know about it. See, over the last few months, some of these shipments have been interrupted. We've been robbed. Some of our boys even lost their lives during these raids. No one could figure out who was behind it all. Rand has been blaming me, and I've been blaming her. We've both been after Albert over it some. Lo and behold, looks like it was your own son Gerald the whole time, right under her nose. So you see what it is you brought me here? This is exactly what I've been after. I try to contain my excitement. Is it purely excitement? Maybe it's partly anxiety. He's feeling some major stuff to be here. Maybe he just plans it off me afterwards. No, you showed him your value, Terry. You did this right. For once. So you see why I'm telling you all of this? You just give me your 7 grades, 5 stuff here. Enough you could cause a war, or in my case, extort the living heck out of her. And I know exactly what I'm gonna ask for. I'm very happy to have been of service, Mr. Bianchi. You betcha you is! What do you want? You think you'll find I'm a pretty generous guy? All things considered, ask for anything. Honestly, Mr. Bianchi, I was hoping to secure a few jobs here and there. My mom, she and I lost our house the other day, and... Of course, you got money problems. You ain't no sweat, kid. Look, you and me can discuss that old soon. Meantime, we's gonna celebrate. Let's go downstairs and crack out the good champagne. And so we did. We dined like royalty, drank until our heart's content, and worked out a deal for me to be under his employ. Permanently. Sure, I feel a little too much about my situation. Let him know all about how Albert and Loretta treated me. After all that drinking, I didn't feel the need to be cautious anymore. After all, he told me way more than I told him. We're talking like seriously confidential stuff that no mafia man should be telling to someone they just met. It was crazy. He showed me the lay of the mansion, boasted about his security setup, showing me all the expensive gadgetry, and introduced me to a few men he had on patrol. It's a night to remember, that's for sure. So why do I feel so sore about it? Thursday. Back already. I gotta tell you, kid, I got a hangover like you wouldn't believe. Sorry about you, sir. I was just tossing and turning all night thinking about a conversation yesterday. Is it okay if we discuss it a bit? Sure thing. I'm feeling real lousy right now, so let's wait till tonight. I'm heading out to the warehouse tonight, helping the boys further investigate the matters. Meet me there around 11. It took a little while for me to figure out what it was that was bothering me so bad. Turns out it was just plain old-fashioned guilt. By the looks of it, I had thrown the only decent Gallo family member to the wolves, the only one in that family to have given me any kind of respect. And he's a pretty well-respected guy amongst his men to begin with. Xander and Loretta, not so much. Just what in the hell was going to happen to him now? How good of a chance is there that an all-out mafia war could break out over this? How many people will be killed all because of these pictures that I took? And of those killed, would Gerald Gallo be one of them? If his mother found out he betrayed her so badly, there's no telling how far she could have punished him. She's got a tough reputation to maintain after all, and another son to take over for her when she passes. It was all just becoming a bit too much of a burden for me. I had to at least try to convince Hans to hold off a bit. Maybe keep it until it's needed to actually prevent a war from breaking out. Would he go for it? I spot Hans amongst a small crowd of men and make my way over to him. He looks at me a bit curiously, as if we never even discussed having this meeting. Was he maybe still drunk from the stop I just mentioned earlier? Mr. Childers, what can I do for you for? Yep, he's completely forgotten. Mr. Bianchi, I was wondering if I could have a moment of your time. Call you? Of course you can, I'm all ears. It's regarding those photos at the warehouse? You mean the ones at Gala? Of course that's what I mean. What the hell else could I be referring to? Yes, those ones. Sure, what about them? Don't suppose there's any chance I could get you to hold off on showing them to his mother? And why would I want to do a thing like that? Well, it's quite simple, really. Is that so? How got my ad saying it? Oh, gotta be careful. Remember who it is that I'm talking to. Not drinking buddies tonight. We're boss and an employee. I mean, no disrespect, sir. I know exactly why you plan to blackmail her, and I believe any man in your exact position would be thinking the same thing right now. Go on. You're not thinking about the bigger picture. Something could pan out to be even more beneficial to your future. Get to the point, but don't panic, stay calm, he's testing you. How many more years do you think Ms. Gallo has left? Oh no, we ain't going down that road here. Me and her are the same age, for Christ's sake. I know she looks and acts all frail, but that old broad is gonna outlive all of us. Way to go, Terry, insult the man's age. How am I gonna spin this? Her health is said to be pretty poor. Mr. Bianchi, surely you can understand the point I'm getting at. Her poor health is well known to everyone. Her enemies grow by the day. She has not done well by her business since her death of her husband. Yeah, I get it. You want me to wait till she's out of the picture and form some kind of alliance with her son via blackmail? Yes. Well, I ain't happening, bitch. Said we get her crazy son out of the way to bother. I ain't forming no alliance with them gals. No, ever. But sir... You work for me. Don't you go question my decisions. I've been running this operation for years. Do not be rid of that piece of shit family for good. But we do it my way. Once at old broad is forced to kill her own son, she'll die of a broken heart. I can finally take over the whole gallow operation. No problem. And Xander? And what of the other son? Yeah, just leave him to me. I'm glad to hear you're so confident. I'm so screwed. Don't you be patronizing me. You're goddamn right I'm confident. I'm waiting for a chance like this for 2 decades. I see. Anyway, I'm meeting with her tomorrow morning. Gonna get me a piece of that south side operation while I'm at it. That's an ambitious assertion. I have no clue what that is. What, you don't think she'll go for it? She'll do anything for me to keep my mouth shut about this. Well, I can't argue with that. I mentioned it last night. Or did he mention it last night? I honestly have no idea. You ain't allowed to argue with me about anything, child. Especially because I'm putting you in charge of the new Southside deal. I'm very grateful, Mr. Bianchi. Again, I have no idea what that means. And don't you forget it, bub! Well, that didn't go right at all. Seems my luck is plummeting right back down again. I feel so set up. Friday. Then Saturday. She's what? Dead! She croaked! You swear to me, you swear that you didn't say anything not to anybody. I swear on my mother's life, Bianchi. Mr. Bianchi, when did it? Yesterday. Completely out of nowhere. This completely ruins our plans for this outside deal, I think. I didn't even know. Please, Mr. Bianchi, you have to believe me. Oh yeah, whatever. Pan the mile, we're past that now. I'm thinking that she confronted him and after before she got a chance to dole out the punishment. She should have just had him killed outright. You never allow a guy like Gerald to get the upper hand. You mean, he killed his own mother? Seemed pretty likely. Now I gotta go try and smooth things over with him. Gonna be pretty tough facing the guy, not knowing how much he knows. Really ruthless guy if he done what I think he done. Can't believe any of this is happening. Yesterday I finally had some peace and quiet, and yet unbeknownst to me, something as huge as this was going down while I whiled away my time relaxing. And that might have been all because of me. What have I done? What have I done? You know, it's Monday. I'ma try to make some plans meantime. I want you waiting by your phone day and night, capiche? And you at my beck and call. Things are gonna move fast. Wednesday. Days went by and nothing. Way around like an idiot, even going as far as making Mog go get anything she needed from the store while I sat around by the phone. My nerves were completely shot the whole time. Couldn't he have reached out just once to give me an update? When I finally did hear from him, he did nothing to soothe my anxiety. In fact, he made things a hell of a lot worse. All he said was we gotta meet, we're in a whole lot of trouble. Great, like I didn't already know that. Please just tell me how bad it is now. Real bad, boy. On a mean schedule at Gallows' house today. He wasn't even there. Nobody was. So, what does this mean exactly? As a sign out that outright disrespect tells me 2 things. 1, old previous agreements on territory disputes are kaput. 2, they want me to know they're gonna try and push me out for good. I've been trying to call them all day and nothing. This ain't good. So then what are we gonna do? I don't know, something big enough to grab their attention. I need them to talk to me. I'm willing to do just about anything it takes. If they shut me out, it means a war. I can't afford that shit. Truth be told, not at my age, not in this stage of the game. When you say something big, what exactly you have in mind? I just said I don't know yet. Give me time to think. Stay by your phone again. I'll call you when I need you. Christ, what does it take me for? A slave? It's ridiculous. I have to stand by my phone for another few days while it goes and screws things up even more. I can't do this anymore. I need to get myself out of this mess before it's too late. Maybe it's too late. But if there's one thing this whole mess is showing me, it's that things can always get worse. I can talk to Gerald Gallo himself. One more thing. The Albert guy you used to work for seems he's missing or something. Of course. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier. Instead of running straight home, I go to the payphone and I call Ma from the day we got evicted. I don't want to just show up to his house uninvited unless there's no other choice. Hello? A cracking voice tells me I'm speaking to a teenage voice. Gerald's son. Good morning, young man. Good morning. I was wondering if your father was home? Oh. Hello? Mr. Gallo, how are you? This is Terrence Childers calling? Childers, you're one of Bianchi's guys, right? He remembers, although it seems like vaguely. I'm currently under the employment of Mr. Bianchi, yes? And what is Mr. Bianchi after now? Actually, I'm not calling you on his behalf. Well, you'll excuse me if I don't believe that. Good day, Mr. Childers. Please wait. Really, it is in your best interest to hear me out. Sincerely doubt that as well. Click. Ugh! Yeah, I knew I should have expected this. What do I do now? I mean, I tried, right? Conscience cleared? Huh, right, Terry. Get real, idiot. This isn't nearly over with, and you know things are bound to get even worse. Thursday. Again. Lo and behold, I was right. Bianchi called me this afternoon to let me know he'd come up with a brilliant plan. Went to Gerald's house to try and talk things over, catch him off guard and whatnot. They got there, however, things took a bit of a turn. He ran into Gerald's young daughter and decided maybe he could take back the upper hand after all by kidnapping the poor girl. I can't believe it's taken me this long to realize that maybe old Hans Bianchi isn't quite as bright or lucid as he used to be in his younger days. This guy was now a complete and total dipshit, which makes me even more of one for working with him in the first place. I can hear the yelling as they open up the screen door and enter the kitchen. Completely exposed and scared out of my wits, I stand before Gerald Gallo and his beautiful wife, tongue-tied, dazed, and shaking all the way down to my toes. Gerald, promise me you'll get her back! You piece of shit, you have some nerve showing your face here after all this! Mr. Gallo, I am not here on behalf of Mr. Bianchi. I just heard of his plans and came to try and offer my help. Bullshit, you knew about this before. No, but I suspected Bianchi would try to make a move to grab your attention, and that's why I tried to call you yesterday on the phone. Perhaps I should take you as a hostage of my own. Easy, Terry. That's right. This is what he means. You know damn well Bianchi wouldn't pay a cent for you. You could very well, Mr. Gallo, but I'm not worth much less to my employer than you seem to believe. But I'm worth much less to my employer than you seem to believe, and escalating matters even further is not in your best interest here. And what is in my best interest? I know the layout in Bianchi's manor. I know where all the guards are stationed, how they'll put the cameras, and he'll likely be holding your daughter. Well, I suppose that's mostly true. I can at least give him the rundown from memory of where the cameras and guards are, and those changes anyway. And why should I trust you? You have a choice, Gerald. Please, Mr. Gallo, if you don't take care of this my way, we're looking at a full-scale mob war between the families. Part of the reason with Bianchi, he doesn't seem to care anymore. And just what is this all about? I can tell you on the way to picking up your brother, Bianchi is in possession of information that could ruin your family. Right now, he just wants to make a deal. I know my boss. It's never enough with him, and eventually he'll use that information to control your every move. What information? I'll tell you about it on the way. We need to hurry. Please, you have to believe me. Go with him. I'll call the police. No, police must never learn of this incident. What? Alice, if you don't hear from me in 2 hours, you can call them. I suspect I know what Mr. Childers' plan may be. You mean 2 hours and not a moment later. Mrs. Gallo, please tell Xander and tell him we will be there to pick him up in a few minutes. Alright. Better not be lying, Childers. I assure you, Mr. Gallo, I couldn't be any more genuine than I am right now. Fine, let's go. Get in the car and start driving. Very upfront with the guy, explained that I don't want any harm to come to Bianchi from all this. I just want to right the things I've set wrong. And then I tell him my secret, or rather his secret, the one Bianchi wants to hold over his head. I swear I see a glimmer of panic in his eyes when I tell him that, and all of a sudden I start having second thoughts. Too late now, though. He knows what I know. All I can do now is trust that he wants to prevent a war as much as I do. He tells me as long as I keep my yap shut, no harm will come to me. Only then do I finally start to relax a bit. The rest of the rescue happens in a bit of a blur. After picking up Xander and going over the drawings I made of the mansion, we head up towards Bianchi's place. When they discovered Gerald's son had stashed himself away in the trunk, there was a bit of bickering. When they discovered Gerald's son had stashed himself away in the trunk, there was a bit of bickering, some threats made against one person, etc. All in all, despite me being strapped to the wheel of the vehicle while they went in guns a-blazing, I liked my chances of survival. Gerald even said to himself I did them a solid, and I helped him get his daughter back and hope it prevented the war in the process. He would let me live too. That was my main concern when all was said and done. I felt even better when everyone was home safe and sound. I got to see a warm reunion of mother and daughter, albeit from the car where they'd made me stay, and all was well again. I asked Gerald what had happened with Bianchi. He said everything was fine. I have to believe him. In the end, Gerald had his cousin Dean come out and drive me home. I would much rather have walked, but he insisted and said that I needed to be debriefed on the matter, whatever that means. Could it be I would be hired on full-time for my efforts? The whole thing made me nervous. I should have known we'd be coming back here after dropping them off. Xander, he really wanted me dead. He said as much more than a few times back there, so he's put this guy up to the task of taking me out. I take no pleasure in this, just so you know, if it were up to me, it wouldn't end this way, Childers. Yes, that makes it all okay. Don't be a whiny little bitch about it, just accept it. Would you be so accepting of your own death? Had I been stupid enough to ever work for a man like Bianchi? Yes. I work for Xander, that's far worse. I work for Gerald, not Xander. Then why do this to me? I know Xander's the one who put you up to this. Gerald, trust me now. You said it yourself, you trust me. Please, I'm begging you, just talk to Gerald. Man, you really just don't get how this all works. What the hell's he saying? Is he implying that Gerald is the one behind this? There's no way. There's no way! I would have got his daughter back. Who the hell prevent the war from breaking out? Who would have righted all my wrongs? What's that supposed to mean? Never mind. I suppose the whole situation would be funny if it weren't for what I'd have to do next. If I don't see anything funny about what's happened over the last 24 hours. So, are you gonna struggle, or can you come to terms with this? And there it is. The sentence of my death. This is it. My final stand. If there was ever a time for me to fight it, it's now. I'm not about to give up my life willingly. Guess it would be too much to hope for. Alright, let's have at it. I'll make this quick for you. I moved to throw a punch, but he hits me before I can fully get my arm up. Dazed on the ground, I stare up at the barrel of the gun. He waits a few seconds. I expect him to say something, but there really isn't anything else he can say. Down and out as always. Can't seem to catch a break. I don't ask for much, do I? You've reached the end of a day in the strife. Thanks for reading. Well, that was that story. That was weird. I feel like I do. I'm like confused. Oh, you have to go through that every time. Okay, and it like de-highlights them. I'm like confused, but I feel like, you know, having played Butterfly Effect probably would have made more sense. So, I guess next time we'll do the recollections bit. We're moving on to recollections. Molly and Alice get together to revisiting critical moments from their lives. Thank you so much for having me over. I feel like I haven't seen you in weeks. I'm Always glad for the company. You know that. Oh my god, me too. It's so nice to be away from all the chores. Kids at school, husband at work. What could be better? Yes, it is nice to have a free afternoon. It really has been a while since it's just been the two of us. Exactly. I was starting to worry, actually, that something might be wrong. Are things ever really right? Oh, Molly, what is it? Did something happen? Oh, don't get me wrong, Alice. Nothing happened. Nothing new or unusual anyway. You know how it is. With Xander, you mean? Xander, yes, and Serena, and then there's Birdie, and it really is just all the same problems on a different day. Serena, that child is still hanging around here? That child is 18, as Xander keeps reminding me. Molly, about that, I've been wanting to ask, but haven't been knowing exactly how to put it. Why do you let it continue with her? I know you've never been comfortable with the arrangement, so why? Truthfully, there's nothing I can do to stop it. I suppose I'd be relieved if she were my age. Then I wouldn't have to feel so guilty. Poor thing, she has nowhere else to go. She believes this is her only choice, no matter how many times I've tried to tell her otherwise. Hold up, go back a step. Relieved? In what way? Someone else to deal with Xander and his needs, so that I don't have to. You mean to say you and Xander are no longer intimate? No, not since before Serena even. We haven't been like that in a long time, Alice. You had to have known that, surely. I at least suspected. You two barely even acknowledge one another when we're all together these days. But I suppose I knew. When Serena started showing up more and more, I began to understand. But what is it? I mean, what changed? He's violent. He's become more and more so over the years. I went through stages of denial, then annoyance, then anger and sadness, and finally terror. He's a dangerous man, Alice. I don't have to tell you that. No, I suppose not. But you always supported him up till now. I mean, you and I always knew that their business required that we're married to mafia men, yes. But it's deeper than that with him. It's temper. You haven't seen it. You think you have. Him having such a short fuse and all. But real temper, it's unlike anything you could imagine. I'm so sorry, Molly. I'm so used to just turning a blind eye with our husbands that maybe I ignored too much. Do you ever think you would leave him? I don't know. I've thought about it, of course. Fantasize with the kids. There's no telling what he'd do. If I took them with me, he'd tear the world apart to find us. If I left them to him, I could never. I just couldn't. Oh, of course, dear. Yeah, I know you wouldn't. I'm so sorry it's been this difficult on you, but you know I'm always here if you ever need anything. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hate to pry too much, but have you always been this unhappy? Truthfully, no. In the beginning, he had this way about him. He made me feel like I was the only girl in the world who mattered. Like he knew right from the start I was the one person. I know we never talk about how we met. The reason was, well, I was embarrassed. You see, I was working at the club. Yes, I do mean the club. I can see you're a little shocked. It's okay, I get it. I'm not the sort you'd expect to find in that type of place. I wasn't then either, and I knew it. After my father passed, he left me in debt instead of anything else. I was a little desperate. So upon hearing about this little bar a couple towns over, where I could work as a server and not have to expose myself on a stage or in a shady backroom corner, I took a chance and paid a visit. It was actually your husband I interviewed with. He was very understanding of my situation and made it clear that I wouldn't have to do anything I wasn't comfortable with. They were special circumstances, as he put it. I was eternally grateful for it, although, as I would soon learn, none of the other girls would approve of me as a result. They all assumed I was shacking up with bosses, and that they were playing favorites with me. I was called a prude, even though I knew some of them were envious of my exemptions. I never even had to take my top off, and it irked the other girls to no end. Looking back, I get it. Maybe if I hadn't taken full advantage, none of them would have even noticed me. That one girl wearing all her clothes took out like a sore thumb to them, though, and it landed me in no one's good graces. Except... I ain't ever seen a girl with such a fat ass before. Where you even find these girls, and? Don't go All blame on me. Gerald deemed my hires to be inadequate and subsequently took the reins by force. He didn't say I was complaining. The reason I had you relinquish your hiring rights at Xander was purely your own fault. I told you when we took this place as our own that I wanted to class it up as much as possible. You deemed fit to aim for the extreme opposite. Hey, my broads were plenty classy. Really? Within the first month, I found one snorting coke behind the bar, right in front of customers. There were instances of prostitution occurring in the back rooms, and was even propositioned when I confronted them about it. And I had to have the bikers come in to maintain order when a few of the girls' boyfriends started coming here to start fights. And you're welcome for that. Working out that protection deal was the best thing we could have done for the joint. Focusing on things to deliberately ignore my point, Xander. Well, how the heck was I supposed to know the whores were all coked up and banging the customers? Background checks. Simple as that. You weren't taking resumes for one. You weren't conducting proper functional interviews for another. And what about references? Did you even think about asking for those? It's a frickin' daddy bar, Gerald. You think someone with a goddamn PhD is gonna come look for a job in here or something? Resumes are either empty or full of other titty bar experience. The only interview questions I need answered is, do I like looking at them? And I don't even have the time to go chasing after other people to find out what they thought of the girls when I can make that judgment on my own. It's always the easy way with you. Always an excuse for your lack of preparation, eh? Oh, go screw yourself. I've been watching them squabble all night. Normally I was in a good mood to see Gerald, as he was always so nice and very quick with his orders. On that night, I had a difficult time determining when I should cut in. Xander was a good-looking man, for sure, but his demeanor made me a bit anxious. Eventually, there came a point where they all just stopped talking. I knew it would likely be my only chance. Good evening, gentlemen. Can I get anything for you from the bar? Look at that body, or else it'd be nice. What goes with the clothes, darling? No, don't you start with that, Dean. Molly is one of our best new girls. The very type of personality I want to exemplify by our staff from now on. Molly, my dear, you look ravishing tonight, as always. For fuck's sakes, the titty rockings. Cat, got your tongue there, Xander? Molly, I'm afraid this ill-tempered fellow is my younger brother, Xander. You'll have to excuse him, as it seems your beauty has managed to enrapture him. Still thoroughly disappointed. Don't mind us. I think we've probably had too much to drink as it is. Alright, no problem. Just wait for me if you change your minds. Why, Xander! I don't believe I've ever seen you so flushed. Could it be that... I took my leave as soon as I could. I was embarrassed. The change that had come over him hadn't escaped my nose either. He was like night and day. And I suppose that's where he'd sparked my interest. I thought that perhaps there was a softer side to him after all. And with various faces for multiple environments and situations that had me intrigued. Of course, that was naive of me. You know when people say if I only knew back then what I know now, that's all it's ever been with Sandra and I. I was determined to nurture this softer side, and in turn ended up ignoring just how beastly his darker side was. It was all for nothing. Yet I still can't look back to those early days without anything but yearning. He showed up at the club almost every night after that, usually with Dean, sometimes with men I would never see again. I knew he was there only to catch a glimpse of me. If not the second or third time, definitely the fourth night when he couldn't keep his eyes off me. His power was alluring then. I did my best to stay away as much as I could because I really did fear him. Eventually he started asking for me by name to come and serve him. I misconstrued it as a cute gesture. Of course it was just his controlling nature coming out in full force. Eventually he finally asked me to go out with him. Again, his demeanor had changed in that instance. He was vulnerable. I convinced myself I was the only one who could make him that way. Maybe I was for a time, but it was fleeting. What's the matter? You seem distant today. I'm not distant, I'm bored. I own a number of the town's biggest hotspots. You want to spend the day in the bloody woods? I go to your family's clubs and restaurants all the time. What's wrong with a simple walk in the park every now and then? Some people would consider it romantic. Just something bored people tell themselves because they don't have any other options. You don't honestly believe that. Variety is the spice of life, Xander. Besides, it's a beautiful day out. Why would you want to spend that coop cooped up inside. A little bit of prior notes have been appreciated. I'm sweltering in this suit. You hate not being in control of things, don't you? Of course I do! People lose control of their lives and end up dead sooner or later. We all die eventually. He is a lot more pixelated than she is. Like, his face basically doesn't exist. Has as many pixels as the background? Okay. Anyway, sooner rather than later then, I'm not accustomed to not getting my way, Molly. A man of very little patience. I'm fully convinced that's the reason for it. You lose control if you lose sight of what you're after. And what is it that you're after? Right now? You. Me. Yes, you. I've never been good at courtship. It's a waste of time in my mind. I've wasted enough time already deliberating how and when to ask you out, where to take you on the next outing, what to wear, what you're thinking. It drives me up the wall. And yet day after day, night after miserable night, I torment myself over it again and again. You. I'm not one to this stupid dance. I'm done with it. If you can't handle it, then maybe this was a mistake from the start. I want you to be my wife. Of that I'm sure. I couldn't care less about anything else. It's just all a distraction. My aim has been the same since the moment I laid my eyes on you. I need to know now. Am I wasting my time or... I was swimming. I didn't know what to think. Was this him being romantic? Was I pulling him from his shell? I wish I'd seen it then, but I only saw what I wanted to see. He didn't want me to in any romantic sense. He wanted to own me, like claim to she who he deemed the most beautiful, one of his assets he could boast about. But I didn't see that. It was too disgusting to even consider. Are you asking me to marry you? Do you need me to spell it out for you? Then yes. Yes? Do you need me to spell it out for you? Now we're on the level. So stupid. His proposal was nothing short of an ultimatum. Give myself to him now or get out of his sight forever. The doubts were always there, laying dormant in the back of my consciousness. But there always seemed to be something there to keep me occupied. Something new and exciting, pulling me further and further into his world. Okay, you can open your eyes now. Oh my, our own private beach! Well, sort of. It's just a quick walk through the forest path. What do you think? I love it. The house, the area, the property, all of it is so perfect. And then, of course, I got pregnant before the wedding, forcing a delay because he didn't want me to be showing in my dress. Can you believe I actually thought he was being considerate of me? It went against family traditions, and his mother was furious about it. Some part of me convinced myself it was a noble gesture in consideration of my feelings. Ha! Oh, Alice, the stupid things I did in those days. I was so blind to everything. You never thought to try and get away after having Shauna? I was still fooling myself at that point. Things were fine, I suppose. Right after Shauna was born, we had the wedding, everyone seemed happy. Then, when Xander started losing interest, we had Ronald. You never realize how bad things are until you're in the thick of it. His demands became more regular, his controlling behavior was more outright. He started taking me whenever he felt like it. It was never an act of love, just a reassurance for him that he was in control. But then Bertie and Amy. Mistakes, stupid, irresponsible, selfish mistakes, and all by his design, I have no doubt. A woman is far less likely to leave with 4 kids than she is with just 2. You never support them by yourself, he always reminds me, as if he knows exactly what I'm thinking. My God, Molly, I've never heard you speak so bluntly about this before. Why have you never said anything till now? I think I'm finally at my wit's end. Not that I have any kind of plan. I'm still just as lost and well trapped as ever. Well, you're not alone at least. You know I'd do anything for you, right? You can't know how much I appreciate that. I'm just not sure there's really anything you're able to do. Anything, Molly. I mean it. You and I are in this together. No one else could ever understand the kind of situation we're in here. It takes a lot to live in this world and turn a blind eye to all the things we'd rather not know or think about. Gerald, he understands that. Gerald, can I talk to you for a moment? Of course, my love. What is it? I know a family reunion is neither time or place to talk about this, but you know, but wonder every time we're at one and none of the people in attendance are your relatives. Yes, well, you know the reason for that. Of course, and I know And I know the less I know about your family's past is for the better. But it just makes me think, is this your real family? I mean, can we trust all these people? It's not like we even ever have them over for drinks or any other social occasions. These reunions are the only time we see any of them, and it just feels like such a business party as opposed to anything else. Alice, my dear, you know very well I can't begin to explain that I grew up into this situation. It's all I've ever known. These business relations go back to the time of my father. Older than I am. They're the closest thing to family we've got. My uncles are gone, as you well know, and this is all that's left. You never really told me much about your uncles. I wasn't told much myself, honestly. The one thing my father did tell me about his brother was, well, it was more of a warning, really. Papa was always so big on the importance of family. He admired his brother like no other man while growing up. But things changed over time. They both changed, and unfortunately for my uncle, it wasn't for the better. He said to me, my uncle was his family, and therefore his burden to bear, not mine. Well, they were so bonded to one another, he wouldn't place my life in his hands even for a second. Man was to be respected as well as feared. I suppose that's what this family of mine represents to me. They're allies you can't turn your back on for fear of the repercussions. That doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense to me, my love. I have a brother of my own, remember? I see what you mean. I suppose everything associated with this family of yours has its intricate set of complications. Indeed, an advice I plan on passing down to our own son when he's old enough to comprehend it. Gerald, you promised he would never know about what you do. I know what I promised, Alice. He's an extremely bright young man. He's bound to figure out sooner or later that things aren't all quite as they seem. He needs to be prepared in some respects in order to protect himself. We need him to understand that he is not family to inherit. This is not his family to inherit. Just don't you forget that he's your son. He idolizes you to no end. My dear, he'll pave his own path in life. I promise you that. Just make damn sure you're there to guide him on it, Mr. Gallo. Always, my angel, and you do the same. Now, shall we get back to the party? It should be time to eat soon. Gerald knows the world he grew up in isn't conventional or even rational. And I think he truly understands how it affects me. He's a good man, so different from Xander, but I do wonder... Wonder what? Oh, sorry, never mind. Just being stupid. Molly, what did I just tell you? You can tell to me about absolutely anything, no matter what. Right, sorry. Well, I have to wonder how he might react if you were ever to leave. If I am, of course he would understand. There's no way he would understand, especially if in some kind of danger, or you. You see, it was stupid of me to ask. Don't be silly, Molly. Please, if ever the day should come when you feel your life or the lives of the children are in jeopardy, you call me. You call me. I will help you. Are we understood? Yes, Alice, of course I will. Thank you. You've reached the end of our collections. Thank you for reading. Well, I said I was going to do one category per video, so, though, I might do the last two together. Maybe. We're going to Aftermath. I haven't played Butterfly Effect, but we're going to Aftermath. Epilogue exploring the immediate aftermath of the Butterfly Effect. Chapter 20, The Mafia Family. I made sure to save the most unique study for last. This was an extra difficult one for a number of reasons. Firstly, there were quite a few children involved with the case. Each one had been affected by the events differently, and it became quite clear to me that many of them were suffering from some very deep mental disorders. Secondly, the circumstances behind the case were beyond peculiar. You could probably write an entire book about just this case alone, as there seems to be quite a bit of history leading up to the events in question. However, as I was called in to speak with the children alone, I am only well acquainted with certain specifics of the story. I was called about it early in the morning after the incident took place. 2 people were found dead at the scene, and they were investigating into the deaths of 2 others, one of which was a child and the friend of one of these mafia children, as I have come to refer to them as. The two men at the heart of the case were brothers. Law enforcement had long suspected them of having ties to a local crime syndicate, and in fact had recently been assumed to have been involved in the mass murder of the mansion only a few days prior. The police couldn't prove anything solidly, and of course they wanted me to be able to provide them with any evidence I could to have one, we'll call him XG, jailed for the rest of his life. That's not what I was there to do, however. My directive was to make sure that these children who were involved were okay, and if not, to do what I could to prove they were not in the right living situation so I could get them out of it. As the story went, one of the criminal brothers, we'll call him Gigi, went crazy, killed his brother's wife in front of her 12-year-old daughter, and ended up holding the other children hostage at gunpoint. Gigi's own kids ended up at the scene of the crime later and stumbled upon the body of XG's dead wife. In short, I was going to have to speak with all of them. Fast forward a bit, and XG's 8-year-old son stole one of his guns and shot Gigi dead. Crazy, I know. Only gets crazier as I began my own investigation. I saw the children at the police station when I was being briefed on the circumstances of the case. The younger ones were crying, while the older ones seemed to be in total and complete shock. I would have to wait a few days until they were in a healthier state of mind before conducting my investigations. Even though Gigi seemed to be the one who had spun out of control, I found that his children were less involved in the actual event, and so it made more sense to speak with them first. So I paid a visit to Gigi's household. My first encounter at the door was with Gigi's wife, who we will thus refer to as AG. In short, she was still in shock from the entire debacle. We spoke a little, but it seemed as though she was in an entirely lucid state of mind. She appeared almost dead in the eyes, speaking in a most very monosyllabic way, and was seemingly unable to display any kind of emotional reaction to my words. My first interview would be with her oldest child, a 14-year-old boy who we will call KG. Following is a transcription of said interview. Hello, KG, I'm Teresa. I just want to ask you a few questions about your parents, if that's alright. KG, can you tell me a little about your father? Was he a good father to you and your sisters? He was the best. Okay, can you explain why you feel that way? What do you even mean? He was a good dad. He was an excellent provider. He loved us and raised us right, and he loved my mom. What do you want from me? Okay, no, that's good. He was reliable, loving. What else? And that's it. He wasn't the monster for he's saying he is. He had reasons for everything he did. Are you privy to what those reasons might have been in this particular case, KG? No. Was there anything leading up to that night that made you feel he was acting differently than normal? Anything that told you something was off? Nothing. He wasn't crazy, He had no choice. No choice but to kill your aunt? Name? How did she tie into all this? I don't know. Did you like your aunt's name? Yeah, she was a good person, I think. How did you feel when you realized it was your dad who killed her? Were you sad, angry, confused? I don't know, okay? I don't know anything. Why do we even have to do this? There's nothing we can do about it now, right? There's no bringing either of them back. I know. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm just here because I want to help. In order for me to do that, I need to better understand the situation. Your situation. Can I ask you about your mother? How is she doing through all this? Why don't you go ask her? Sometimes when we're in shock, we don't realize how a trauma has impacted us. And in those cases, it's easiest to get someone else's impressions. Are you close with your mother, KG? Look, I'm fine, okay? We're all fine. Why don't you just leave us alone and your own goddamn business? KG's responses were entirely expected. Preteens and teenagers are often more closed off and harder to extract information from. I do believe, from what little I gathered from him, that he was very close with his father. While I did sense some tension between him and his mother, I didn't feel it was anything alarming. My findings weren't at all surprising. This was a professional mafia syndicate that Gigi was part of. Mobmen were not the same type of animal you would find in comparison to a small-time crook. By all appearances, they were as well adjusted as any other professional. As such, it was only fitting that their family would appear the same way. I had never encountered anything like this before, and I knew it was a little over my head. Nevertheless, I was forced to push onwards. After my meeting with KG, I had a chat with his sister. She was only 7. It was clear that she was still very scared and unsure of what had really happened. all she knew was her aunt and her father had died, and that the world she knew before had suddenly and cruelly come to an end. There was such an innocence about her that it instantly broke my heart when she looked into my eyes. The innocence, slowly but surely, had been compromised. I could see it was fading away little by little as she began to comprehend the situation. A child such as this had never been forced to endure such mature realities before. It was taking quite a toll, and I was afraid for her. I was afraid we had already reached a point of no return, a sort of breaking point. With this kind of trauma, you can never thoroughly anticipate how it will manifest, nor the degree to which it will damage their growth. As outlined in chapter 13 of this book, I had seen how this kind of extreme case could affect a child before. I was getting similar vibes here. Hello, IG. Can I call you that? Or do you prefer IG? IG. Okay, IG it is. That's a little silly with the nicknames. I'm Teresa, and I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions? Okay. Thank you very much, IG. I wanted to ask you about the night your Aunt Molly died. Oh, they forgot to say aunt name that time. Annie died then too. Yes, I'm so sorry for your loss, sweetheart, but on that night, is it true you saw your aunt? Uh-huh, she was all bleeding. It was all over the place. It was really scary, and she wasn't moving because she was dead. So sorry to see that, IG. It's very normal to be scared when seeing something like that, especially someone you know so well. Did you like your aunt? Yeah, she was really nice. Do you understand what happened to her? My brother sent her and my daddy shot her. Oh, he did he? Do you know any reason as to why he would have done that to her? She must have done something really bad. And your daddy, do you know what happened to him? It was plainly obvious that this girl was going to need years of therapy, something I wasn't sure would be guaranteed to her. The rest of the session was spent with me trying to console her as best as possible. It is clear to me, however, that she understood things on a very black and white level. Her father did a bad thing, and he paid for it in due course. The youngest daughter was only 2 years old at the time and hadn't experienced any of the traumatic events that took place. I did get to see her briefly, but it was less an interrogation, more of an inspection of her physical condition. None of the children in this household showed any signs of physical abuse. In fact, it seemed they rather idealized their father. While they didn't share the same sentiments toward their mother, I couldn't detect any signs of neglect or abuse on her end. Rather, everything seemed to point to her being the strict one of the household. I left the house feeling uneasy. I was more worried about the mother's state than anything. Fortunately, I was right to worry. Only a year later, the poor woman committed suicide. I then had to go and interview the children in the other household. This proved rather difficult, as XG was not the most accommodating of individuals. He was rather snide from the get-go and referred to me as a fake doctor as well as a fake cop, which you know I am neither, on more than one occasion. When I finally did get the chance to speak with the children, I again started with the eldest one, a girl of 12, who we will call SG. She was extremely bright and well-spoken for someone her age. My chat with her lasted quite a while in comparison to KG and IG, and as she was quite explicit with the details of her experiences. We went through the entire night of the murders, and after that, I delved into her past. Her relationship with her father was turbulent, to say the least. It was a very eye-opening event for me. She painted a picture of a very cruel and extremely volatile man, the exact opposite of how GJ's children had felt about him, interestingly. It seemed the more hostile brothers were less than villain of the story, which I found very peculiar. I was finally beginning to see that what living in this family looked like from a young person's perspective. My initial impression of XG notwithstanding, I started to feel as though he may not be the best caretaker for these children going forward, especially with the death of their mother. Here's an interesting excerpt from the interview. Does he hit you? I can't tell you that. Yes, you can, SG. It's alright. This is a safe place, and I'm here to help. I can't do that unless you tell me exactly how he treats you. I can't take that risk. I can't take any risk anymore. The one risk I should have taken. I can never undo that mistake. Should have run away. Well, I could have. And someday? Someday what, SG? Someday, I'll get away from here. As soon as I'm old enough, I won't lose my chance to run. Ever again! I understand how you feel, but the reason you had to stay before, you said it was for the sake of your younger siblings that you couldn't leave. Is that not the case anymore? I can't protect them if I can't even protect myself! I have to leave. I'll do my best to take care of them once I'm out of this hell for good, but until then, I'm no good to anyone. I'm trapped. This poor girl had been through so much. She'd been forced to grow up so fast in order to deal with the situation around her, taking the brunt of XG's abuse in place of her siblings. She knew exactly where things stood. It was then that I had made up my mind. XG was not fit to raise these children on his own. I would do everything in my power to make sure he would not. However, my evaluations had to continue. Next up was RG, the 10-year-old. Are you RG? Yes. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions about that night? I guess. I understand you went through quite the scare with your uncle. Are you able to tell me a bit about what happened? Well, I don't really know a lot. When my dad came home, my uncle got scared and grabbed me, and then he put a gun to my head. And I put my brother shot him before he could. Do you know why your uncle reacted like that? I had no idea why at the time, but I found out later it was because he killed my mom. He was trying to get away. Do you know why he killed your mom? No. That's alright. We're trying to figure that out too. What about your brother? Can you tell me how he was able to get hold of a gun? What's the matter, Archie? He's different. He spies on people a lot. That's how he knows things. He's always just spying. Okay, but to your knowledge, do you think it would be easy for any of you to get hold of such a weapon within your household? Not sure. Like I said, he's different. You can't hide things from him. I see. When you say he's different, how exactly do you mean? Archie? I can't really say. Is it too hard to put into words? No, really no. I'm afraid if you really knew, you might... Might what? Nothing, never mind. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm sorry if that upset you. I'm just trying to get to know your family and the circumstances surrounding that night a little more. It will help us to find out why your uncle acted in the way he did. I don't care. It doesn't matter anymore. He and my mom are both dead. You can think of any kind of reason you want to, but he'll never be able to tell you. It doesn't bring back my mom either. In some ways, XG's children were very grown up for their ages. These two especially surprised and impressed me. All the more reason I had to do whatever I could to take them out of this terrible situation. This conversation made me extremely interested in RG's younger brother, however. I felt that maybe a lot of the answers I needed may come from him. Next up was AG, not to be confused with her cousin's mother. This AG was 6 years old. Poor AG. In some ways, she was the most cursed of these kids. My conversations with her lasted for quite a long time as I deal with almost two distinctly different personalities. To this day, I'm still torn as to what exactly she was suffering from. It almost seemed like a combo of things, like multiple personality disorder, also known as dissociative identity disorder. At the time, of course, not much was known about it, and so they weren't able to perform any of the proper testing. What I do find fascinating is that this disorder is rarely found in children. Even more interesting was that what I had thought at the time, she was battling a form of schizophrenia, which is also rarely developed at such a young age. To one degree or another, all of these children were facing post-traumatic stress of some kind. I ran deeper with this one, however. I believe AG had seen something she shouldn't have long before the events of that night occurred. Maybe many things over the course of her young life. I'm confused again, AG. Am I talking to you or am I talking to Teddy? Oh, silly girl! Okay, can I talk to you without Teddy again? No! Alright. No! Many of the conversations went like that. It was exceedingly difficult in my limited time with her to pinpoint her exact illnesses. However, she's something of a minor success as they were able to prescribe her medications in relation to her schizophrenic tendencies. From what I had heard, she has been doing a lot better ever since. It's such a small win overall, though, I'm afraid. I wasn't prepared for BG. Of all the child cases I've encountered over the years, his was the most disturbing. I've seen patients like him before, but never so young. His eyes were dead, calculating but dead of any emotion. Any trace of emotions had been gone a long time. This child was an exact match of every serial murderer I'd ever interacted with. It was surreal, to say the least. The only trace of humanity came from his wants. He hated boredom. In order to avoid it, he became violent, acting out in disturbing ways in order to entertain himself, but not to get attention. So first sign that something was truly wrong with this specimen. He revealed to me that one of his favorite pastimes was to kill and dissect animals. Another big sign. And then... BG, can you tell me what you felt when you used that gun on your uncle? BG? BG, what you did is no laughing matter. Your uncle is dead as a result of your actions. I understand you did in order to save your brother, but... I did it! I finally got to kill a human person! I always knew I'd be able to, and then I did it! It would have been like fun to use a knife and see what's inside, but like, I think next time I'll be able to. Guns aren't as fun that way. You don't get to see them move around or anything. It's over too quick. That was the confirmation I needed. I don't care how heartless it may make me seem. This child, this sick being was dangerous. Beyond dangerous. No amount of help or attention we could provide would ever change that. This thing inside the human shell was beyond our help. And that was that. The court cases were put off too long, as they often are in our system. A year later, KG and IG's mother committed suicide. I'm still of the belief that that was what truly broke any of our chances of helping these kids. My interviews were mostly ignored, and the courts felt it necessary to place all of the children under XG's custody. I have often wondered about them over the years. I keep my ear to the ground, waiting to hear of them again in the local news. I'm convinced it will happen someday. Suicides, murders, other illegal activities. These children were doomed from the beginning, and to this day I still have the utmost regrets over how the entire ordeal played out. Was there anything more I could do? I don't think so. After the mother killed herself, maybe not even if she hadn't. My family was cursed. That curse began and ended with one XG. And there you have it, my worst case. You've reached the end of Aftermath. Thanks for reading. Well, that is the end of that. We still have little bonus bits to go. There are still some director's commentary to go. Beyond Butterfly. Welcome all. So happy I decided to find out more about the origins of Crime Opera, because who the hell needs real games we can read a visual novel about the making of a visual novel? Or real fans, for that matter. That is just my not-so-subtle way of acknowledging the precious time you're wasting for the benefit of me and my conceited ramblings. Oh, thanks. Well, indulging in my mini delusions of grandeur, I will be approaching this almost like a celebrity interview without an interviewer, because I'm much too important to be sharing the spotlight right now. In all seriousness, though, we couldn't be happier or more appreciative of your support for this project, and sincerely hope you've enjoyed our offerings thus far. Part 1, Writing. Visual novels are weird. They're not video games, but are most often classified as them anyway. There are more than simply novels, so it almost seems a shame to try and think of them that way too. Despite all that, they had me extremely curious. Maybe not quite a kid discovering a naughty website for the first time curious. Please laugh, that joke probably caused me another ban of some sort. But curious enough that I was willing to give it a whirl. It took a while for me to sift through what was available to find. Ones that weren't eroge or romance only, however, so actually getting to the point of sitting down and going through one took much much too long, especially if you consider how many of the eroges I had devoured on my way through. Kidding, of course. I don't even know how many months between beginning my search and settling on the life-altering one it took, but it probably sits somewhere between 6 months and a year. It's funny to even think back to that time, because even though it was about 7 years ago, the state of VNs in English was in a very different place than it is now. They weren't available in abundance just yet, as most of the major translation projects were fan-made. Translators were also very picky. So I read a few higher profile ones. I almost quit fairly early on too. Beginnings were usually exceedingly dry. Sound familiar? I knew absolutely nothing of the multiple routes, etc. Stubbornly, I pushed on. It was always upon reaching the very end of the first path that I became more interested. How the hell could the story possibly continue? Started on the second route, wondering if there was really any way I could be suckered into reading the same scenario over again. Needless to say, there was, and I did it. And before I knew it, the rest of the scenarios came to consume my life for a good couple of years or so. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Somewhere between drinking my youth into oblivion and writing research papers for the advancement of my academic accomplishments, I managed to find a decent amount of time to dedicate to reading them. And what's more, they had a positive impact on my life. Maybe not in a monumentally paradigm-shifting kind of way that would reshape my entire existence, but they got me through some of life's more tedious affairs. That may seem like a long-winded explanation for how I became acquainted with the medium, but there's another point of focus here, and that's the seed that would eventually evolve into crime opera. It was the heavy focus on one particular Vienn's mafia-like family that got my brain doing backflips, and I started coming with the kinds of interfamilial struggles I would like to see happen. Over the course of a night, I've drawn out the various Gallo family members and some of the issues they might run into throughout their criminal saga. It wasn't until a few weeks later when I realized this couldn't just focus on a small amount of time. It would have to be various times throughout the evolving decades that we would revisit them. And in a nutshell, that would become the basis of my idea for the entire series. The selected protagonists, narration switches, and installment plot lines wouldn't completely fall into place until I started writing. I wrote the first 2 chapters in an attempt to do a bit of world building. From that point on, I had to let the story take shape. That's the thing about my writing. I come up with characters and setting and have to trust myself enough that I've plotted them out well enough that the story kind of writes itself. Now as chapters 3 through 24 just simply happened, and I was merely the typer. That's not to say I had no idea where things were going, just practically. I knew 100% how the final scene of the 3rd novel would end. No matter what, and everything that occurred before that point in time had to serve as a sort of lead up to that ending. In my mind, it all worked out beautifully, which is to say a lot because I am the royal screw-up of every daydream I've ever had. As for my process, aside from trusting my fingers to do the work, this advertisement is brought to you by Hello, ladies. I had a lot of aha moments while walking my dog late at night. That's where a lot of threads wove together, and things that may not have been working very well sorted themselves out, I think. Eventually I came up with a lot of plot points for the 2nd trilogy that way too. I took a few months break after I finished the first 6 chapters of the first novel, mostly just because I had a lot going on and I suppose I needed time to allow the differing perspectives to really sink in. When I finally delved back into it, the writing became almost non-stop until I had written not just the first novel, but the entire first trilogy. Mind you, it still took about 3 years total, but that ain't too shabby for weekend-only writing. If readers are interested to know how much of the ending of this first intro is planned, the truest answer I can provide is not a whole lot. I didn't initially know who would survive and who would die, nor did I know exactly how the little narrative views would tie together for the big finale. It kinda just happened. Again, trusting the process. At some point, I got the idea that it'd be neat to do a bit of a fake out with Shauna having blood splattered over her. It seemed the perfect time to have Molly meet her end, as she's too supportive and caring a character to keep alive through the sequels. After all, chaos would not be permitted to ensue with a bright force like her still looming in the background. It also made sense to me, at least, that Shauna would sort of evolve into a Molly-like figure, though due to the events in this novel, she would grow further and further away from this world and the rest of her family. I also knew I had to do something a little bit interesting with Gerald and Xander. Having the seemingly less evil one turn out to be the main villain felt right even from the very earliest chapters, where I started planting the seeds that would allow me to do this if I so chose. When I got to that scene where Gerald kills Bianchi, I had the idea how I could repeat the scene later, only expanded, to include the big twist. That was when it was finally decided for sure that I'd go that route. Terry Childers, unfortunately for him, would never have been allowed to live on after all he'd seen. I ran through the various scenarios where he'd be allowed to live and didn't feel confident in any of them, besides which he didn't quite prove to be as interesting as I initially hoped. I know, now we all have this Fandisk short story, and he eventually captivated me in the end after all. Then there's Gavin. Not much of my main child protagonists were going to meet their end in this first installment, which I knew fairly early on. I liked them all too much and wanted to be able to see them grow to at least young adulthood so we could see a natural progression in all of them. As such, Gavin had a bit of a target on his head from the start. Sure, I could have had Shauna run off with him and it wouldn't have changed too much about her arc in the sequel, but there's something about that would have bothered the hell out of me. Let's warn her to get out for good. We'll push her away so badly that she wouldn't allow her guilt to keep bringing her back. I didn't want her back. I want her to be the only one to achieve real happiness, even at the cost of losing those closest to her. And it had to be a gradual thing. That's her involvement in the second novel, but eventually I knew she'd be gone. Gavin's death was that catalyst. He's her ultimate reason. He's the reason that we can't fully blame her for walking away. He was my martyr. I should round out the deaths with Rufus. This was one of the hardest things I had to do. I like dogs more than like people. I even named this one after my childhood dog, a black and white bearded collie who lived to the age of 14 and a half. I didn't know I was going to kill him off in the beginning. I even had plans of making him Ron's companion leading into the second one. But then Birdie happened. Birdie is a terrifying character to write, and I often have to take breaks because it can freak me out. If there's any character that writes his own story, it's him. Honestly, the foreshadowing of this event's significance turned out to be insane, like beyond anything I could have anticipated at the time. So unfortunately, I can't really say more due to major spoilers. The point is that the death of Rufus was needed. It also led nicely into the following scene between Ronnie and Xander, and is probably more proof that this thing just kept somehow writing itself. I had big plans for the rest of the crew. That's exactly why everything ended the way it did, and it all just cuts off very suddenly with the shooting death of Gerald by Birdie. The aftermath would have to wait 8-9 years to jump to that first sequel. It's jolting, it's shocking, it's impactful as hell. I should cover all my bases here and admit that yes, there is an off-screen death placed years before the second novel begins. I had to do it for the sake of realism, but I perceived to be so, and to eliminate another string that could have proven complicated to write around. All in all, this prologue entry in the series had to be rooted in tragedy in order for each of these characters to grow into what and who I needed them to be. If there is any regret I have over the writing, it's Bianchi's motivations for kidnapping Izzy. It was a stupid thing to do, and I've since been able to rectify it with the sequels, but it still comes across as a little awkward and stupid for first-time readers. Sorry. Assembling the team. The process of creating the first crime opera visual novel was a lot of stop and go. I had initially created the first trilogy as the Mafiosi series and had no plans of ever making it commercially a viable product. As I continued to write them over 3.5 years, however, I came to love the story and world so much that I knew I needed to give the novel the proper treatment they deserved. I needed wholly original art, music design specifically to bring these characters and their universe to life, and for that, I would need a capable team. As with any visual novel project involving a team, many artists and musicians came and went. Some I had only been in talks with, others had produced designs and concept work, only disappeared without a trace after weeks or months of planning. It wasn't until I met JT's sketch that I was able to truly comprehend the meaning of a comfortable online working relationship. We talked every day, and he understood the potential of the series and what I wanted to do with it. He's a masterclass visual novel artist, a reliable and honest worker, and a fun friend to shoot the shit with every now and then as well. That was when I realized what I needed from the rest of the team. There had been a few other people that I had been working with fairly closely for a time. They also had to part ways with various reasons. I needed the other team members to be as excited and passionate about the project as I was, and if they seemed to lose interest at any point, I had to make the hard decision to cut ties with them. Still feel bad about that in some cases, but I'm encouraged by the fact that I eventually did find the team I needed. With JT working the character sketches, I finally got to work on editing the original versions of the novel and setting up commission work. Sorry, a lot of reading. Considering that my budget consisted merely of whatever I had left in my bank account, I had to start very small with those. The upgrades to the actual VN took a lot of time and effort. Once I really sat down and committed to it, I managed to finish the task fairly quickly. That was around the time when we went through a musician change and solo acapella came on board. JT had been working with him on another project and held him in high esteem. After hearing his other work, I agreed that he would definitely bring the sort of professional music we were hoping for. I was not at all disappointed. Beginning his very first piece for the project, which was aimed to be Amy's theme, I knew for certain that we had our guy. He was a great partner throughout the whole project's lifespan and helping me figure out various RMP issues as well. The dude can do it all. The crowdfunding campaign was daunting to plan. It wasn't long before I started looking for some help on that end as well. Talked to a few people on some visual novel forums and got a sense for what needed to be done. Final piece of the puzzle was to find the background artist. Resilience goes a heck of a long way, let me tell you. I was messaging people daily on the Lemonsoft forums, posting ads on various sites, and nothing seemed to be working. But as luck would have it, patience pays off. Gao Nagoon was the artist whose work I stumbled upon while perusing other visual novel projects in the works. I fell in love with the artist's style and attention to detail and sent a message right away. After initially declining, Gao had a bit of a change of heart and messaged me back to discuss details about the demo. It was agreed that the demo backgrounds would be done free of charge as there were only 6 of them, and that the rest would be finished once the crowdfunding goal had been met. Everything was in place, it seemed. Steady progress was being made from that point on. Let me tell you, startups like this never come easy, even when things are going as smooth as you think they possibly can. Real life was getting pretty hectic at the start of the summer for me. I was moving to my own place, away from the world of roommates for the first time. I was studying for a certification test for human resources that would potentially grant me 2 designations. Of course, it all had to happen at the same time. As a result, ironically, the team was making more progress than I was. Adding in extra routes as well as writing for the series' 4th novel became pretty difficult. I knew I would have to really amp up my game in July once everything had settled down. Working a full-time job on top of all that meant I was limited to weekends to work on this project. I say all this because this is what any team leader should come to expect when organizing something of this scale. Real life has a way of bombarding you at the worst possible times. Sure, there are a lot of crowdfunding projects out there with team leads who don't have full-time jobs and are banking their entire lives on the hopes of their campaign's success. I don't recommend taking that route to anyone, at all. Like, ever. Artistic style overviews. How can I even begin to describe JT's character style? He somehow manages to make 80s Japanese anime stylings with old-school Americanized flavors. When he adds the first splashes of color as well, you really get an early 1900s vibe, harkening back to my childhood favorites. It has been amazing to see the various stages of the sprites in JT's process. He began with very rough sketches in the beginning before we had properly assembled the team. I was blown away by his vision from the get-go and knew that he understood the characters and their individual appeal. Heck, even with characters who had no appeal at all and only showed up for a very short scene or 2, he knew what to do with them. He gave them a life I never even tried to give them. The second stage of the process was the liner. This is the stage where he more or less finalizes the various shapes and odd little details of the sprites. The square jaws became more rounded, facial features became softer, and poses started to look and feel much more natural and human. And the hair has got to be my favorite part of his style overall. The third stage is the soft coloring, where he plots out the base colors and adds a bit more life. Eyes and lips no longer appear so doll-like, and you really start to get an almost 80s anime feel. Initially, I actually loved the stage of his drawing so much, I was tempted to ask him to keep them that way so it can maintain the 80s theme throughout, but I was too curious to see what his idea for the final product would look like. To my pleasure, the final stage didn't take away from that atmosphere. I loved it all. The final colorized materials were added a new dimension of life with the realistic shadows and added details. The finalized hairstyles were vastly improved as well, and I couldn't have been happier with the results. The best part about JT's style is that he manages such varied material while still somehow making it feel cohesive. Male characters differ so drastically from the female ones, and none of them seem out of place. As well, characters like Bianchi have elements of the fantastic thrown in for good measure without detracting from the sense of realism I aim to get out of them. Lastly, JT was very involved with every facet of the commercial version's creation. He had a vested interest in the series as a whole and wanted to allude to future iterations of the characters in very subtle ways whenever he could. I can't give those away, but as the series progresses, these things will be noticeable to readers as well. He added other little nifty details as well, such as matching the eye colors to the protagonists to their respective name colors when they spoke. He's got quite a sense of humor too. Like when I asked him to draw I first asked him to draw Rufus. In regards to Gao's background, I got to see those in 2 stages. First was a sketch layout, and the second was the final version of each. Needless to say, the disparities between the 2 stages was immense. The sketches were great, but the final products were just out of this world. I struggle to even come up with the words to express what happens between point A to B. It's simply magical. The thing that strikes me the most about these backgrounds is just how imaginative they are. The layout of the first room, for instance, is just so open and believable. I would actually want to live in this world the artist has created. I gave absolute freedom to Gao in terms of the details and couldn't be happier with the way it all turned out. Gao loves working with fun little details as well. If you aren't looking very hard at the paintings on the walls, you could very well think they were copied and pasted from real life. But upon closer look, you will see the more minute details that were put into them right down to the last pixel. I mean, just look at the photos on the walls of Shauna's room and the poster in the back. It's just astounding. There's so much more I want to say about this particular area of work, but really it just has to be experienced firsthand to fully appreciate it. The sounds of tragedy. Solo acapella had an extremely difficult role to fill when joining our team. The sheer diversity and variety of vibes and atmospheres needed for this project required someone with an unreal reach of the imagination. There's so much I can say about his work, I wouldn't even know where to start. I'm a musician myself and therefore have a gigantic love and appreciation for music, especially actual compositions. Solo understands the difference between composition and the mere tune. His work on the soundtrack goes from relaxing to beautiful to haunting to terrifying and many more places. Every single bass that needed covering, he was able to provide. And then some. He makes me think back to some of my childhood JRPG faves. I get a similar feeling while listening to Solo's more classically inspired songs on this album. I know I'm biased, but I feel the soundtrack in its entirety is an absolute goddamn masterpiece. I'd love to do a track by track with my impressions, but I can do you one better. A track by track by the man himself, solo a cappella. Here he is with his take. Overture Act 1. Just like every classical theater act, the story begins with an overture of all the basic themes. The first 3 notes are the main theme of this entire story, B, C, and F sharp. The first note goes up a half step and then sinks down a tritone, which was so dissonant that it was considered the devil's interval in the early Christian church. That F sharp keeps trying to resolve up where it's supposed to, but keeps falling back down, creating a constant rising tension that never fully resolves. This is used in several tracks, but I'll leave it to you to find them. Other themes include the harp playing Kyrie Ellison, while the woodwinds take the theme from Language of the Waves. Other themes are present, but much more hidden. Language of the Waves. Shauna's theme. The Language of the Waves should be a very calming one. I wrote this one with a picture of a calm, isolated beach in my head. Everything is very simple. I chose the clarinet recorded live for the melody because it has a very simple tone, never rocking the boat. There are no counter melodies, no complex harmonies, and only 2 instruments. It's the kind of thing you don't have to think too hard about and can simply enjoy. Life, they call it. The melody of this is very similar to a certain melody from one of my favorite symphonies. I wonder if anyone will recognize it. I wanted to create something that evoked a peaceful nostalgia that you could lose yourself in. Harmonies keep resolving into the next chords before finding their way back, creating a never-ending loop. The English horn, recorded live, gives it the melancholy tone to wrap it all around. For your own good. This could arguably be the main theme of the story. It uses that opening motif from the title screen over and over with that limping, uneven rhythm. It never fully feels resolved, constantly trying to escape its own dissonances and only creating more in the process. When the parts finally start lining up, it still doesn't sound very welcoming. But sometimes life struggles are there for your own good. Disconnect. A much calmer version of cognitive dissonance. Everything seems like it belongs, but overall there's a feeling that something doesn't line up. Several modified versions of other melodies come in as reminders of what we already know, including For Your Own Good, Pins and Needles, and others. Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance arises when your worldview holds contradicting ideas. It creates all sorts of problems when those contradictions are ignored. With this track, I wanted to create a lot of unresolved tension with a lack of tonality and melody, but have the rhythm continue on like nothing is wrong. This is a shorter version of Disconnect gone horribly wrong. Dysfunction. Anyone who knows a Shostakovich string quartets, especially the famous number 8, should find some similarities to this one. It's all very slow and drawn out, with harmonies only occasionally going where you want them. The melodies continue through all 4 parts of the string quartet, only sometimes working together. This entire string quartet was built off of the main theme from the overture. Empty. Just like the title suggests, all the harmonies in this are missing notes. Most harmonies have some kind of direction associated with them, tending to resolve in certain ways, but this one completely ignores that. The synthetic instruments only add to the fakeness of it all. Naivety. Amy's theme. Lots of high keyboard instruments, and the oboe gives this piece a childlike aura. Behind all the twinkling sounds, there's something slightly strange that only shows up every once in a while. The melody from this gets used again in Let's Play. Let's Play. There are a few things creepier than a child with something slightly wrong about them. The entire track sounds like a wind-up toy marching blindly forward, not caring what it knocks over in the process. The melody from Naivete comes back in a slightly darker manner, backed up by lots of mechanical and classical instruments. Little Angel. Izzy's theme. Just like Naivete, this piece uses lots of plucked strings and bells to make everything seem sparkly and clean. Sometimes you just need to sit back and enjoy the world as it is, even if there are a few wrong notes here and there. Mire. Just like Empty, some harmonies are completely static and don't want to resolve anywhere. This piece evokes the feeling of being stuck somewhere and being unable to do anything about it. Everything flies by in a haze, feeling as if nothing really matters anymore. My World. Birdie's theme. The world truly is a beautiful place if you look in the right places. So much of this piece shows the beauty of childhood, but some of it starts to slip away to a darker place. The melody starts getting lost and the harmonies begin to clash. Everything in this world is so close to being perfect, but once you see the less desirable parts, it becomes impossible to ignore. The main melody shows up in a few other places, but is always very well hidden. Not my problem. Kevin's theme. This track is in no hurry to prove anything. Everything's very relaxed here with a jazzy atmosphere to make sure everything leans a little further back. The piano even improvises its own part in the second half, as if it didn't care who was listening. Out of sight. Every sound used here has been modified, giving everything a ghostly aura. The short track shows that sometimes a mere type of sound can tell us something isn't right. Pins and Needles. One of Ronnie's 2 themes. I wanted to share his hesitation around the rest of his family. That feeling of walking around on pins and needles and knowing that one wrong step could set everything off. The tonality here is questionable at best, never feeling perfectly resolved, and the instruments all use very percussive sounds. Wander. The other of Ronnie's 2 themes. I wanted something completely different for this one. I wanted something that would give him a more adventurous feel, hence the guitar sounds. Sometimes we all just need to go get lost and wander somewhere. Tilt the Hourglass instrumental. With this track, I wanted to create the kind of music that your grandparents would sit around and listen to on a quiet evening. Sometimes the world needs to slow down so that we can appreciate what little time we have on it, but inevitably the sand keeps slowing, whisking us away no matter how hard we try. Tilt the Hourglass vocals.
Calling out to Father Time, would you tilt the hourglass? Would you linger for a moment more with me? Would you kindly remind me of the time we lived alive, so we can say, I just want to say goodbye.
I think that was a goodbye. No right answer. Sometimes there's simply no right answer to the questions we face every day. Sometimes the best we can do is sit back and watch while everything slowly falls apart. There's nothing worse than knowing that you can do nothing to help someone. Diaz Irae. If wrath that day will dissolve the world into glowing ashes as attested by David together with the Sibyl. Dies Irae and the Requiem depicts the Day of Wrath at the end of days. It's been used throughout history, and this version uses traditional melody heard at the beginning. Nearly every single line in this track is a modified version of that or from Kyrie Ellison. In the end, the two melodies overlap in a wild frenzy, with one part singing of the Day of Wrath while the other asks God for forgiveness. Kyrie Ellison. Christ Ellison. Lord have mercy. Christ have mercy. Just like Dies Irae, Kyrie Ellison is a traditional part of the Requiem asking God for forgiveness. The organ, strings, and choir create a reverent atmosphere for the words to be carried through. I switched to end off with a video song, which is done by my band Ex Gravatus. We're still active, though progress has been weird. We still need vocals on a few songs to end off our first album, and a drummer for most tracks, as we parted ways with our first one after 3 songs. Primarily, we are a symphonic metal band, and our second album is all acoustic. I've written 7 songs for it already, so I guess we're not just that. Anyway, Inescapable was our first song we did. It's probably our most traditionally structured song, as most of our song structures have become ridiculously progressive ever since. I found a lot of the imagery fit with crime opera, and the atmosphere is perfect for an opening video. Demo. Putting a demo together was a little surreal. Writing was all there, and a lot of it was just a matter of plugging in the pieces, replacing old resources with the new ones. There were hiccups, and at first seemed like a whole lot of them. To my pleasant surprise though, taking them on just one bug at a time made it seem pretty easy. Discovering a new problem like a line of code from the new GUI I hadn't come across before could seem daunting, scary even. A lot of the time it seemed like I had no idea where to even start. As luck would have it, most often the simple solution would be something as easy as deleting a line of code with a warning next to it, "Do not erase this line!" Sometimes I amaze myself. Really though, I had done a full sweep of edits to the game's writing before my team had started their work, so most of the demo was ridiculously easy to complete. Just a few key instances where I really had to put my director's cap on and think differently, namely sprite placements. The original version of the game just had the simple left, center, and right placements. For this commercial HD version, I had a lot more room to fill on the screen, so I added mid-left and mid-right positions. As well, I had to pay close attention to which characters were facing which way. It became more of a motion picture the way I had to plan each and every scene rather than just throwing everything up on the screen and hoping nobody cared. It really paid off, and honestly wasn't nearly as difficult as I'd initially anticipated it would be. Lastly, JT and Solo were a huge help with making suggestions such as moving the child sprites up when talking so you could see them over the message box, having darkened out sprites for non-talking characters, and a few other little added details. Solo was an especially big help with the nitty-gritty ones like the text box fading to transparent near the top. Original plan was to just release the first chapter as a demo, but we found that we still didn't have enough backgrounds to show off for the preview video, so I had to pay for 8 new backgrounds. Though this would cause a bit of a delay, it allowed us to expand the demo to a full 4 chapters. All in all, it was definitely for the best, even if my bank account was left a little sore in the end. Crowdfunding, rise and fall. The crowdfunding plan went through a series of what had to be 800 iterations. You think I'm joking? It changed on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times a day. A word of advice for those considering going this route for your own project? Kidding, I don't have any. Good luck? I regret nothing though. Seriously, I know where we kinda went wrong with it, and if I could go back in time, I'd probably still do everything the exact same way just because we were ill prepared to get into things like physical editions and the like. Most assuredly, nothing has changed on that front since. Crowdfunding campaigns are absolute hells for first timers, even if you somehow end up getting lucky and getting fully funded in no time at all. The work going into that launch is unimaginable. I think I poured more time and effort into that than the actual game itself that year. In fact, I know I did. As I said in the demo section, that part was pretty easy overall, and really it was a big help going into the launch. I mean, look at all the extra resources we were able to use for our official game page on from it. It definitely didn't feel like it was all for naught. Also, we were able to keep in touch with those who tried to pledge, which was the most helpful in keeping a sort of base of fans. Anyways, putting everything together meant writing the demo, completing the video, getting the extra crowdfunding only graphics done, figuring out the goals and pledge levels. That's the simplified version anyway. I've been keeping track of a lot of the details we needed to present, like for the budget all along, thankfully. As a side note, by far the greatest challenge of self-funding a project like this is the exchange rate. As the standard is USD funds, paying in Canadian dollars took me a lot longer than it otherwise could have. I would highly suggest you take this into consideration if you're in a similar situation. Unfortunately, self-funding became my only option after the crowdfunding campaign failed to meet its goal. We started off fairly strong over the first couple of days, as we had a little base of fans who were ready and willing to jump on early. Eventually, even with all the ads I'd spent money on and tried my best to promote, things came to a standstill. After we got halfway through the campaign, I believe people saw things were no longer going the way we'd hoped and decided to hold off to see if anything improved. As it happened, nothing did. That's kind of that. It came, it went. I was faced with the fact that I was going to be out a lot more money after financing the rest of the game on my own. Again, understanding and patience from my team was a huge help over the remainder of the year as I scrambled to pay when I could. Completing the game. We had initially planned for a summer 2019 release, but I knew with the failure of our campaign that we'd likely miss that by a small bit. As well, some of our more ambitious plans had to be scaled back. Instead of full CGs, we opted for specialized sprites instead, thus making the gallery link on the title screen moot. 2019 for me was a frustrating year on the whole. I had to wait for a lot of the rest of the resources to be finished before I could complete the rest of the scene placements, so mostly I just waited on the sidelines until I could finally jump back in. When I did, progress went swiftly and smoothly. I knew well enough when to let it rest and finally aim for a release. Then we got banned from a very well-known website. You know the one. Yeah. Anyway, that's an entirely longer matter, and if you want, you can research what happened online. For now, all I say is that we have no further plans to put projects on the platform. I disagree to this day with their decision, and that will have to be that. Thanks for reading. Hope you enjoy all future Crime Opera games. I guess I'll explain why I can't find it on there. But still have one little bit to go, which is a word from S. Bester. Thank you for purchasing this short stories fan disc. I made this fan disc for two reasons. The first being our devoted fan base, so I wanted to give them something a little extra to tide them over until the second game's release. Secondly, I wanted a shot at redemption regarding Terry's character. I had always had it in my head that he had more to do with things in the first novel than we were able to see. But something like this story was way too long and complex to include as simple tips. The bonus stories were also rattling around in my head for a while, and while not completely crucial to the Crime Opera universe, they were still worth a little exploring. The epilogue in particular serves as an extra bit of closure for those who felt the first game ended too abruptly. As such, you can take these or leave them in the terms of their own canonicity. If you don't like them, don't consider them as truth when reading the sequels. If you do, that's cool too. They'll never be referenced again, so you can do whatever you like. In any case, I hope you can absolutely promise a sequel to deliver on any and all expectations, regardless of what you think of these short stories. I do hope you like them anyway, though. So final note, I want to give a wholehearted thank you to EastasiaSoft and Rather Like It Games for bringing this franchise to consoles. Please enjoy Crime Opera 2. So, I will start on Crime Opera 2 sometime. I've got some plans for various things. But that does wrap up Crime Opera The Caterpillar Candids. Whew, that was 36 minutes straight of talking. Thank you for watching. Thank you, eastasiasoft, for the code. If you enjoyed the video and this short little series, consider tossing a like, comment, subscribe, maybe click the bell for notifications. Also be sure to check out the description below. Various links, social media, Discord, come hang out, get notifications there as well. And until next time, this is rinimt signing out. Bye!